My dad told me never to open the locked basement room. The day he died, someone knocked from the inside. The day my father died, everyone kept telling me the same thing. He loved that house more than anything. They were right. My dad had lived in that old farmhouse outside of Lexington, Kentucky for nearly 30 years. After my mom passed away, he refused to leave, even when maintaining the property became too much for him. I offered countless times to help him move somewhere smaller, but he always gave the same answer. As long as that basement door stays locked, I'm staying here too. I thought it was just another one of his strange habits. Every family has one. Some people refuse to throw anything away. My dad refused to unlock one room beneath the house. Growing up, I wasn't allowed anywhere near it. There wasn't a dramatic explanation. He simply said, if anything ever happens to me, don't open that door unless you absolutely have to. I laughed it off for years. When he passed away from a heart attack at 72, I inherited everything, including the house. The funeral was difficult, but once the relatives left, I stayed behind alone to sort through decades of belongings.
That's when I noticed something strange. Every room in the house had dust except the hallway leading to the basement. The floor there looked freshly swept, almost as if someone had walked through recently. I assumed one of my cousins had gone down there while helping clean. But when I checked, the heavy basement door was still locked with the same thick padlock I'd seen my entire life. The key wasn't anywhere in the house. I searched every drawer, every cabinet, every coat pocket. Nothing. I figured I'd hire a locksmith the following week and finally see what my dad had been hiding. That night, exhausted from cleaning, I fell asleep on the living room couch. Around 2:40 in the morning, I woke to 3 slow knocks. They weren't coming from the front door. They came from underneath the floor. I sat perfectly still, convinced I'd imagined it. Then I heard them again. 3 knocks, slow, evenly spaced, directly beneath me. My heart started racing. I grabbed a flashlight and walked toward the basement door. The house was completely silent. I pressed my ear against the wood. Nothing. Just as I turned away, another 3 knocks echoed through the door. I stumbled backwards so fast I nearly fell down the stairs. I told myself it had to be old pipes settling or some animal trapped below the foundation. Old houses make strange noises all the time. That's what I repeated in my head until sunrise. The next morning, I asked my nearest neighbor, Mr. Collins, if he had ever heard anything unusual from the house. The smile disappeared from his face. "You heard it too?" he asked quietly. I felt my stomach tighten. He admitted he'd occasionally heard knocking coming from beneath the house whenever my father left town for more than a day. He once offered to help investigate, but my dad became unusually angry and insisted nobody ever go near the basement. Mr. Collins assumed it was connected to old plumbing and eventually stopped asking questions. The answer didn't make me feel any better. I hired a locksmith that afternoon. He examined the lock for less than a minute before saying something odd. "This lock's been replaced recently." It made no sense. My father had barely left the house during his final months. Who replaced it? After removing the padlock, the locksmith reached for the handle. Before he opened it, we both heard a loud metallic crash from inside the basement. He looked at me. I looked at him. Without saying a word, he slowly pushed the door open. The smell of damp concrete rushed out first. The staircase led to a surprisingly clean basement lit by a single ceiling bulb that was somehow still working. There were shelves full of neatly labeled boxes, old tools, and furniture covered with sheets. Nothing looked mysterious. I almost laughed at myself for getting so worked up. Then the locksmith pointed toward the far wall. Someone had built another room inside the basement. It wasn't original to the house. Concrete blocks formed a square enclosure with a heavy steel door secured by 3 separate deadbolts. Unlike the basement entrance, this door wasn't locked anymore. One bolt hung halfway open, another rested on the floor. The third looked freshly scratched, as though someone had been trying to force it from the inside. We stepped closer. That's when we heard it. One knock. Then another. Then another. Coming from behind the steel door. The locksmith immediately backed away and told me to call 911. Within 15 minutes, deputies arrived, followed by firefighters in case someone was trapped. After documenting everything, they forced the steel door open. Inside wasn't a secret prison or hidden bunker like I'd feared. It was a reinforced storage room filled with filing cabinets, old computers, cameras, and stacks of videotapes. Nobody was inside. The knocking had stopped the moment the door opened. Investigators searched every inch of the room before one deputy noticed a ventilation duct running along the ceiling. Inside the duct was a loose metal inspection cover hanging by one screw. Every time the old ventilation fan activated, the loose cover swung against the duct, producing 3 perfectly spaced knocks that echoed through the concrete walls. It explained the sound, but not the room. Why had my father hidden all of this? Detectives began opening the filing cabinets. Every drawer contained records dating back almost 25 years. Maps, newspaper clippings, license plate numbers, photographs of unfamiliar vehicles parked near local schools, handwritten notes documenting suspicious activity around the county. At first, I thought my father had become paranoid in old age. Then a detective quietly asked if my father had ever mentioned volunteering with law enforcement. I said no. The detective pulled out an old binder and smiled. My father hadn't been hiding from something. He had been quietly helping investigate it.
Decades earlier, several children had disappeared across neighboring counties. The cases went cold before modern databases existed. Frustrated by the lack of progress, a small group of retired officers and local volunteers continued gathering information privately. My father had dedicated years of his life to organizing evidence, tracking tips, preserving recordings, and documenting sightings that official departments no longer had the resources to pursue. The reinforced room wasn't built to hide people. It was built to protect irreplaceable evidence from fire, flooding, or theft. The deputies contacted state investigators who spent weeks reviewing everything. Hidden among thousands of pages was a single notebook containing detailed observations about a delivery truck repeatedly appearing near several disappearance sites in the late 1990s. That vehicle had never been identified because surveillance technology was limited at the time. Using updated databases and license records, investigators finally traced the truck to a man who had died several years earlier. While searching property connected to his family, detectives uncovered physical evidence linking him to multiple unsolved disappearances. After more than 2 decades, several families finally received answers they had almost given up hoping for. During one of my last visits to the sheriff's office, the lead investigator handed me a sealed envelope they had found inside the reinforced room. My name was written on the front, in my father's handwriting. Inside was a short letter. He wrote that he never told me about the room because the fewer people who knew it existed, the safer the evidence would remain. He believed someone involved in those old cases might still be alive, and he refused to risk everything by talking about it. The final sentence stayed with me long after I folded the letter closed. If you're reading this, the room has already done its job. I sold the farmhouse the following year, but I kept that letter. People still ask why my father spent so much of his life alone in an old house he refused to leave. I finally have an answer. He wasn't protecting a secret for himself. He was protecting the truth for families who had waited decades to hear it. And the knocking that terrified me wasn't a ghost, a prisoner, or anything supernatural. It was nothing more than a loose piece of metal that accidentally led us to the evidence my father had spent half his life making sure the world would eventually find.